on the level, been on the level. I'm climbing up the.
Alright, this is another episode of Ask Nasteey. It's a video series I did a long time ago on my channel. Haven't done it in a while. We're bringing it back. Essentially, people ask me questions about League of Legends or the support role or anything really that they want to ask a question about in my Discord in the Questions for Nasteey channel. I answer them here in a YouTube video. We'll go ahead and get started. Question number 1. Nasteey, is roaming Janna an actual thing? I had a Janna claiming to be Diamond Smurf roam the entire game, leaving their Xayah alone bot lane to the enemy Sivir and Morgana. This was on my bronze alt account where I played jungle. So essentially just asking about Janna and roaming. The thing about roaming as Janna or just roaming as support is there are certain supports that have roaming playstyles. So for example, when I think of a roaming support, I think of champions like Bard, Thresh, Alistar. These are champions that are kind of made to roam. It's part of their playstyle. They're just really efficient when it comes to roaming. When you think of a champion like Janna, and actually most Enchanter supports, they're not really good at roaming. It's not part of their playstyle. They are meant to stay in lane, scale, play for team fighting later, peel, provide shields and heals, so on and so forth. Janna can actually play aggressive sometimes, being really annoying and poking with W. I've seen a lot of Janna players take Comet and do that. But even then, even though that's a different playstyle, it's still optimal. Roaming as Janna can be done if you really have nothing else to do on the map, but for the most part, it's not part of Janna's playstyle. If you think about a Janna roam being executed, I can't imagine it being all too good. You'd probably just have to run straight at the enemy. If you have Mobies, maybe you just run straight at them and press a W. And, you know, that's about all the setup that you have. Or you set up a tornado from far away. Overall, it's not going to be super efficient. You're better off spending your time in lane phase. Just trying to focus on winning lane and scaling and playing for late game. So overall, is Janna roaming a thing? Janna can roam. It's not the most efficient, and from time to time as a support, you might find yourself with nothing to do on the map and you will have to roam, but for the most part, you don't pick Janna with the intentions of roaming all game. Here we have another question. What do you think about after level 6, leave bad ADC strat as Janna? So another question about Janna. And again, here, it's kind of a similar answer. Janna is not a champion that can roam around the map a lot and just leave your ADC. So you ideally need to stay in lane, and even if your ADC is bad or feeding or whatever the case may be, you just need to continue to play with your ADC, and you don't really have another option. But when it comes to just overall leaving a bad ADC, I know people can get frustrated. That is essentially trolling the game. I understand it's frustrating when your ADC falls behind or they're trolling or you don't necessarily agree with the plays your ADC is making, but if you leave them alone in lane by themselves, they're going to play even worse. They're not going to be able to get as much XP, as much gold. They're going to fall further behind. If they're tilted, they're going to become more tilted. Overall, you can't just leave your ADC. It's not a thing. Even if you're playing a roaming support, you can't just perma roam and leave your ADC bot lane. So it doesn't matter if your ADC is bad. It doesn't matter if you're playing Janna. It doesn't matter what champion you're playing. You can't just leave your ADC at level 6. It's not going to work. It's just going to make them fall further behind. And at the end of the day, even if you disagree with them, even if they're inting or you're frustrated with your ADC, they're still your teammate. So if you want to win, you want to make sure your teammate doesn't fall further behind. This next question is actually really funny because I've made a lot of videos recently on this topic, even though this question was asked probably a couple months ago. So, but this question asks, what runes would you use on Rakan? I heard Electrocute is great. Tried it too. Seems pretty solid. What do you think? I'll give a short answer here because, as I mentioned, I did make 2 videos recently kind of addressing this. There is my in-depth Rakan guide where I cover runes and everything else you could possibly need to know about the champion. So you can just go check that out if you want to know more in-depth answer or hear my more in-depth answer on all of that. I also made a video of me ranting about AP Rakan and Electrocute and how bad it is. So you can watch that again if you want a more in-depth answer. My basic, simple answer here that I will repeat once again for you, Electrocute is bad. It's not how you play Rakan. If you want to play a champion that could do more damage and take Electrocute, play a damage champion. Rakan is not a damage champion, don't take Electrocute. Next question is actually a really good one. It says, Nasteey, what's the best way to improve your mechanics, game knowledge, and overall gameplay in League of Legends? It's probably not the answer you were looking for. But when it comes to improving in League of Legends, mechanics, game knowledge, anything that you could possibly improve in League of Legends, you just have to play the game more. It's like the 10,000 hours rule. League of Legends is the same as anything else in life. You just have to do it a lot. You have to practice a lot. You have to continuously play every day. And that's the best way to improve. I remember Scara once, a few years ago, told me, or told, his stream when I was watching, that you can't complain about your rank in League of Legends until you've played 2,000 games in a single season. Now, I understand that not everybody is capable of playing 2,000 games in a single season, so I'll just put it this way. Until you've played probably 3,000 games total, not just in one season, but 3,000 games total, you can't really complain about your rank. League of Legends is such a complex game. There's so many aspects that go into it. I mean, like, just looking at the support role, you have to take into consideration itemization, earning gold for your quest, roaming, knowing how to help your ADC CS, whether that be in the lane or under your tower, learning how to manage waves and freeze waves and push waves, and when you should be freezing and pushing, team fighting, warding, when to ward, objective control. There's so many aspects that go into this game, and that's kind of just me narrowing it down to the support role and some things that I think of as a support main. So overall knowledge, mechanics, overall gameplay, these are things that just get better with time. You got to play the game a lot. I mean, I've met some people who are really good at video games, and they show a lot of potential when I watch them play League of Legends, even though they're new to the game. But I can tell that, they're still going to struggle a lot just because they haven't played enough. You can have potential, but if you haven't played the game enough to know what every single champion ability does, for example, you're going to struggle, Then that's a whole nother aspect that you can throw on top of that. There's so many champions in the game. Every champion has at least 4 abilities, right? There are champions like, Nidalee who have Cougar form that gives them more abilities, but that's a whole different subject. But until you can even know what every champion does and how to play against it, you're not going to be able to play the game to the best of your ability. So just playing the game. Again, it's not the answer you probably wanted to hear, but that's the answer I have for you. All right, again, we have another question on AP Rakan, Challenger Rakan main on EUS as a super in-depth guide to Rakan. He recommends this build path. This is a little outdated because it's from last season. But still, same information here. AP Rakan is bad. If you want to build an item like Protobelt, you should probably play a champion where Protobelt is a standard item. Rakan's not that kind of champion. He just isn't. Again, just go watch my my rant on AP Rakan if you want to hear more about this. We're going to breeze through 2 questions here because the first one is just another question about a Rakan build. Won't dive into this. Go watch my Rakan guide. I go in depth on runes builds and all that stuff. But the question after that says, what is the best blind pick support in your opinion? Honestly, when it comes to blind picking a support, I would especially just recommend that you play anything that you're comfortable with, because if you're playing a champion that you're comfortable with or a champion you have a good win rate on, then chances are, even if you get counterpicked, you'll still feel like you're in an okay situation in that game. So for example, for me personally, I really enjoy playing Rakan. I'm not a one-trick. I don't main him, but he is one of my favorite champions of all time. I do play a lot of Rakan, and I blind pick him a lot, even though he gets counterpicked by a lot of different champions, and especially he gets counterpicked by a lot of meta champions, because champions like Thresh are meta right now, Rel is meta right now. So I can often blind pick Rakan expecting to get counterpicked, but because I'm comfortable on the champion, it just works. I can make it work because even if the enemy team has the advantage as far as our champion matchup, I feel like I have the advantage because I'm playing a champion I'm comfortable on. If you're not at a point where you have any champions in your champion pool that you're comfortable blind picking because you're scared of getting counterpicked, just pick a champion that doesn't have a lot of counterpicks or a safer pick. So something like Janna, like that was mentioned earlier. Nami's pretty safe. Even though they do have bad matchups, you could play really passive in these lanes, sit far back in the lane, just sustain, help your ADC last hit minions, and scale into late game team fighting, and then you could just be effective then. So your options are pick something you're comfortable with, or pick something that it doesn't matter if you get counterpicked because you could just play safe, or there aren't a lot of counterpick options against the champion that you're playing. All right, so last 2 questions here. First one is, when you leave your ADC alone on a mage support in the lane phase and in the mid to late game. Again, a mage support, you don't really want to leave your ADC alone, because similar to Janna, mage supports, they don't have optimal roaming. When you pick a mage support like Xerath, Brand, Lux, these champions, the reason you pick them is because they're lane bullies, and you want to bully your enemy bot lane. And you can't do that if you're roaming. You can't continuously poke down the enemy if you're not in lane to do so. So make sure you're not roaming too much. You're not leaving your ADC alone. Whether it be, an enchanter support like Janna, because we already talked earlier about how that's, not gonna really result in the best roams, but mage supports as well don't have good roams, and you want to be bot lane anyways. And then the final question of the video is, how do you explain in the tiny 20 minutes of the game that you need to ward before an objective actually spawns? Basically, this problem boils down to the point that League needs voice comms, and that's a kind of a shitty answer that you probably don't want to hear. But League just needs voice comms, and unfortunately, you can't explain in depth what you want teammates to do. This is a problem when it comes to warding, when it comes to objective control, when it comes to getting deep vision, or invading, or tower diving, or setting up TP plays. These are things that typing in the chat or pinging is not going to accomplish exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But with that being said, that's all we have for the time being, so you have to use that to the best of your ability. Now, I'm not saying just like type in chat full MLA 10-page paragraphs or 10-page papers, what you're trying to accomplish in game, but try to be efficient with what you're typing and what you're pinging. Obviously avoid the random flame in chat, because that's not productive, and you want to be efficient with your time typing, because typing is actually taking your focus away from the game. So you should only be typing if it's going to benefit you. Same thing with pinging. People always spam ping question marks and whatnot, but that's not efficient with your time. So making sure that you're typing and pinging efficiently and using whatever you can to try to communicate with your team to set those kinds of things up. And I kind of know exactly what you mean, because as a support, it's really frustrating sometimes when you need to get vision around Baron, or you need to get deep vision, but you can't communicate that with your team, and then you end up dying while trying to get vision for your team because you're going by yourself. So I understand the frustration, but at the end of the day, you got to work with what you got, which is using the chat and using pings to the best of your ability. All right then, guys, that is going to wrap up the end of this video. Again, an Ask Nasteey video, something that we haven't done in a while, but it's always fun to hear you guys' questions and give you guys a little bit more of an in-depth answer rather than just responding with something short and simple. Doing in this video format makes it a little bit more fun and allows me to engage with you guys and give you guys the answers that you're maybe looking for. So hopefully we can do this more often. There aren't actually a whole lot of questions here for me. I was able to make this video dating all the way back to like October of last year, right? So not a whole lot of questions here, but if you guys want, join the Discord using the link in the description. Go to the Questions for Nasteey channel, at me, leave your questions here, and I'll answer them in a future video. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate it. It does help a lot with the algorithm and whatnot, trying to grow this channel as much as possible. So yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.